Hey everyone, Margarita here. This is going to be the intro on a series of videos I'm going to be releasing soon on surviving severe carbon monoxide poisoning. This is a real life story. These are actual true events that have all happened to me. My poisoning is, my injuries are permanent from the poisoning. I do also have 5 brain injuries secondary to the carbon monoxide poisoning and the ongoing effects that I suffer from. I did go 14 months initially from the time the injury became an extreme medical emergency. I went 14 months before beginning proper treatment at a private facility. So I'll get more into that in a little bit. I am going to tell everything in the order in which it happened. It's going to be easiest for me to tell it in the order in which it happened. The case was very, very extreme. And my poisoning started in 2016. I overloaded with it in 2018, began treatment in 2019. I also gave birth while suffering from it in 2016. And was getting regularly exposed about 15 hours a week the last 10 weeks of pregnancy. That got covered up by that hospital separately from everything else I'm going to be talking about. That was its own cover up by itself. Everything I've been through is a very large scale cover up. There has been many, many crimes that have been committed against me and my son. At the root of all of those crimes is my deranged mother. She is not a neurotypical person. She is a deranged lunatic who has several undiagnosed mental disorders and personality disorders. Now, today, there is a psychologist who's been involved for the past 5 years. I am the one who hired her. So we do have professional eyes on the situation, and she is a firsthand witness to a lot of these crimes that have occurred against me as well. She will continue to stay involved until this is all the way saw through, whether it be my mother be apprehended by the proper authorities or she ends up passing away before that. Either way, this woman will have to stay involved until this is completely finished, because it has not completely played out yet, even though this is now 2025. So I've been filming for about 6 months, and it's such a lot of information that I'm going to be delivering. And I do believe my actual life story here is going to change many lives because of what I've went through, what I've had to figure out on my own. I did have to figure out how I was going to keep us alive without help from anyone. And not only did I just not have help, I had the people in my household screaming delusions in my face the entire time this was going on. My brain was raw, swollen, sagging for almost 3 years. It was 34.5 months that I stayed that way with 50, 60 severe symptoms all at once. And no one around me was any help. So that is also part of the reason the psychologist was brought in, because my injury was so extreme. This is not an outpatient type of injury. This is an inpatient type of injury, because you can't have particles of any kind, or not even 1 breath of part per million of carbon monoxide at all. And there's little bits of it out in the world everywhere. Not literally everywhere, but there are certain businesses, certain types of vehicles that tend to have some or a significant amount. Now there is some that have none. And I'll get more into the how this all works, how the carbon monoxide works in different industries and the sources in which it comes from and how all of that works. I will get into all of that. But I do want to talk a lot about the carbon monoxide, what I had to learn. The medical system is not trained properly. The medical professionals are not trained properly on how carbon monoxide poisoning works, and they are not trained properly on how to test for it either. I do believe there's about 80 to 90% of cases of carbon monoxide poisoning, whether it's one large exposure, an acute exposure, people are getting chronically exposed at a lower level, because the symptoms manifest differently in each person in each situation. There is no 2 cases alike. And I do believe there are people being sent right out of the hospital suffering from repeated exposures or a low level of carbon monoxide that seem to be causing some type of chronic problems in their life. health problems. So I will get more into that as well, and the different symptoms that it can cause, and all of the ones that I particularly experienced, because I did not experience every symptom available. But I will get into all of that as well. I do believe these videos are going to change many lives, save many lives. Carbon monoxide poisoning is fairly common. Even if I've come across about 30, 40 people in my waking life since my injury, personally, just crossing paths with strangers who have also been poisoned by carbon monoxide. So I have exchanged information with all of these people as well along the way. And the only reason my son and I are still alive is because of my previous life's work prior to my injury. I started working in restaurants and bars at age 14. I started off busting tables and hostessing, and started waitressing at 16 and bartending at, I don't know, like 19 or 20. I think I was like 20. And so I stayed in that industry for a total of 20 years, from the time I was 14 to the time I was 34, when I became severely overloaded with the carbon monoxide. That was one of my primary forms of income for all of those years. And I've always had multiple streams of income. And I've also had numerous side businesses along the way. In my first one, I began at age 11. So I've always generated quite a bit of income. And I always worked double, triple time what a regular person was at the ages I was when I was working. Because usually teenagers that 14 to 18, 19, they don't have 2-3 jobs. But that's what I was doing. And part of that was because I knew I had to leave right when I turned 18 due to my deranged mother and her malicious activities, her behavior. Now, back then I did not have a name for any of this or what it was called. And when you're born into this situation like this, it's harder to tell, even though something's not right. I didn't have anybody to ask for help. I was very isolated. I was an only child. All of my grandparents had been deceased, most of them deceased before I was born. So I really had nobody. And the family members that I did have, my mother had been controlling the false narrative with all of them since I was a very small child. I basically confronted her on one of her crimes as a very small child. And since then, she had been spreading delusions about me, created a false narrative, and grew it over the course of my life. It is still going on today, and I'm now 41 years old. So I intend on putting a stop to that immediately. I am going to be clearing my name. I do go by Margarita. I've been going by Margarita for 20 years. Most people out there know me as Margarita. However, my birth name is Jamie. My parents named me Jamie. And I don't really answer. I mean, I will answer to Jamie. But, most people calling me Jamie, they don't really know the real me. The real personality is Margarita, the person that I became on my own. This Jamie girl that my mother is running around controlling this false narrative with all these hundreds and thousands of family members, friends, large agencies she uses to harass me and commit the crime she commits. That person that she is talking about and the information she is giving them about me, that is not real at all. That has anything she is saying, those are all delusions. I am the exact opposite of the type of person that she has portrayed me to be to all of these people and all of these family members, all of these large agencies, police departments, you name it, court systems, whatever. I'll get more into all the different agencies and all the different crimes and situations that have happened along the way. I'm going to get through talking about my injury first, because that is actually what caused my mother's crimes and behavior to become 100% known as time was going on and more stuff was happening. And because of the severity of the injury, it caused all of this to become 100% known. So basically when I was 18, I'd been at the same company a couple years. I cut ties with my mother immediately and I moved out onto my own. We've never had a relationship growing up, even long before I turned 18. We never had a relationship since then. There is no contact. And so not only did I not have contact with her after I turned 18, I also did not have contact with her hundreds of family members where she's over here controlling the false narrative in the background for all these decades before it became known to me. So if I don't have contact with either her or any of the family members receiving the information, no one would ever know that information is false. And those are delusions and none of that stuff's ever been real. So This is really hard for people to understand when I say my mother. And this is part of the reason she's been able to get away with all of these crimes that she's been committing and all the manipulation of all the people she uses in the large agencies. And she's even manipulated my older two kids as well. My youngest is not allowed to have a relationship with her at all. He's almost 9. He's never been allowed to have a relationship with her. So it's really hard for people to understand when I'm saying my mother this, my mother that. No, you are thinking of your mother, not the deranged lunatic, non-neurotypical person that I've been dealing with since forever. People misconstrue the word mother because they immediately think of their own cookie baking, sweet loving mother. And that is not who my mother is, never was. I basically raised myself. I raised my older two kids. She's also been telling people that she had custody of and raised my older two kids. That's never been real. That's never even been a thing. Those are delusions as well. So I'll get more into that in the future. But I do want to mention that we do know that my mother has severe narcissistic personality disorder. So I will elaborate on that subject quite a bit. And then I do know that she has Munchausen by proxy. That it's pretty rare to have Munchausen by proxy. And she has 3 forms of it. The first one is she poisons batches of food, as Eminem suggests in his song, Cleaning Out My Closet. And she has been doing so since I was a small child and possibly since before I was born. And this is still a problem today. However, she knows that I know she does this. So that's why the delusions are running extremely heavy still to this day. And why all the chaos and conflict that I have in my life running in the background, that is currently why that is all going on. So that is one form of it. The other form is that she portrays me to have a mental disorder and a drug problem to others for attention. And I believe that's how she made people believe that she had custody of and raised my older two kids. Now, the third form of it is she either waits for an incident to occur, or she'll cause the incident to happen directly, or something will happen outside of her causing it naturally. And either way, she'll insert herself in it after she causes the problem, or she'll wait for something to happen and insert herself in the situation. Either way. But she'll use any situation that may occur. She inserts herself, calls to the top of whoever's in charge of whatever situation's going on. And there's a wide variety of situations, so I'll get more into that. And then she tells all these delusions about me, delusions about what she perceives, or she just tells them she happens to know all of this because she's my mother. None of these people ever question it, ever look into it, ever even talk to me about it. They just operate on 100% her delusions, no questions asked. So she's able to blow my life into smithereens. She blows my life into little tiny pieces. This happens all the time. She uses others to do it. She uses those closest to me to do it. She uses large agencies. She uses all family members, neighbors, friends, you name it. She's done it. So that is still an ongoing problem. Now that also ties in with her decades of crimes as well. So everything I'm talking about actually warrants a federal investigation into my mother, into Beaumont Hospital, into the Brownstown, Michigan Police Department, the Flat Rock, Michigan Police Department, and possibly the Romulus, Michigan Police Department. I'm not sure to what, I believe the Romulus Police Department has done the least amount of crimes. It's teetering. They may have not actually committed any crimes, but I have found false information that they have written about me that is not true. So there is some issues going on with those 3 police departments mainly. I will get more into all of that. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's other agencies, like I said, she worked for Beaumont. Beaumont needs to be looked into as well. My son and I have very heavily falsified medical records, and we cannot get treatment if we were brought in dead. And that did happen to me in 2023, that happened to me. So we cannot even receive treatment at a hospital at all due to all the false information that my mother had entered at the beginning of my injury. And I do want to mention that I did not have a medical history whatsoever for the previous 20 years of stepping foot into the building that caused our injuries. I was completely healthy, worked out every day, ate organic food, and I was on top of the world, didn't even have a primary doctor, was not a part of the medical system. So that's, that explains everything that's going on. But I'm going to come back and do another one. I want to keep these videos at about 15 minutes. Thanks. Bye.